Before we get into this episode, I just want to say I'm really sorry for the poor sound quality on my end of the conversation. Our guest sounds absolutely great and they hold most of the conversation time, so I hope you can look past the poor sound quality as this is a very interesting conversation with someone sharing their experiences for the very first time.
Everything was black but the top, and the top was extremely white, and it was right here. It was very bright. I wasn't dead, and yet those beings were there with me. They came to me and helped me where I was.
Kia ora, welcome back. This is the Let's Talk Near Death podcast. I'm Kirsty Salisbury, the host of your show. Today I'm chatting with Jay Green. Jay had a profound encounter that lifted him out of despair from an intense vision of dark figures merging into a beautiful white light, something we hear quite a bit about in these near-death experience conversations. It left him with an unshakable hope, a deeper understanding of the unseen guidance that is all around all of us. This is the story of an NDE-like experience. It fits beautifully into the conversations we have here on the podcast and where we talk about all things about life, death, and experiences in between. So Jay Green, welcome along. It is exciting to have you here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Where do we start with your story? You had this NDE-like experience. Where do we start and what was going on for you when this experience happened?
Well, I think that it's important to say that the reason that I felt like I wanted to bring this to you was that it took me a while for it to dawn on me that although it wasn't an NDE, I didn't die. I've been watching these NDEs and I realized I was there or they came to me. And since I was alive, but it still profoundly changed my life, I thought this could help more people to know this because we can't all die and come back, can we? So that part only recently came to me as a realization. So this was summer of 2004 here in Pittsburgh, where I am, and I was in a sad time. I had some sad life experiences with relationships. This one in particularly affected me, made me feel profoundly hopeless. So I should say that even leading up to it, probably for a couple of years, I had been seeing energy psychologists. So I sometimes wonder to this day if some of that work didn't facilitate beginning to open some doors for me. But if you're not familiar, the energy psychology is what some people call tapping, where you'll focus on an affirmation. So people call it EFT or TFT, thought field therapy, emotional freedom technique, and also EMDRs. I had been doing a little bit of EMDR work, which is an eye movement work that I think is really powerful, but you need to bring a lot to it for it to work. But if you bring a lot along and stay there with the process, it works. So anyway, I had been doing some of that work, and yet this life experience happened that made me extremely sad. It was one of two times in my life that I went to bed like an old Motown song, with tears, like I was that sad that I was in bed. And I remember asking and saying, well, this is really hard for me to take, so if you want to take me, or if you want to help me, meaning God. And I fell asleep. And I don't remember any dreams that night at all. But that's not particularly unusual. But what happened was, somewhere near dawn, I felt like I was in a trance. I wasn't asleep anymore because I was aware, and it was what was in front of me was real, but my eyes were closed. And I describe it like this: if you close your eyes and shine a light through your eyelids really brightly, it's sort of if you've ever been outside and looked at the sun with your eyes closed, it's like a dark red, a maroon color because of your blood vessels in your eyes. So it was like that. Everything was very maroon, dark red, and a low hum happened, like a buzzing, tonal sound. And then these 3 black triangles slowly floated in. There's one from each side and one from the bottom. And they floated in very slowly. And they were all even. They came in evenly together. And just like a dream, when you know you might see somebody in a dream, but it's not that person, but you know it's that person. And I knew that these 3 triangles were spirits or entities. I knew they were not just geometric shapes. And they floated in, and as they floated in slowly and the hum increased, the maroon that was the whole sphere, I liken it to saying there's a little bit of white mixed in that makes it not black. And these 3 triangles took all the white and pushed it to the top as they came in, and they got closer and closer till they connected. They blocked everything out to everything was black but the top, and the top was extremely white, and it was right here. It was very bright, and it buzzed and hummed very strongly right there. I don't know how long, if it was 10 seconds or 60 seconds. It didn't seem like more. And then, just as it started, they slowly retracted and came out. And then the white dissolved back into maroon, and the whole picture was maroon when they were gone. And the moment they were fully gone, I woke up. And when I woke up, it was a Friday morning in June, and I was joyful, and all my sorrow was gone. And I knew that I had reason for some life sadness, but it was in a box. And I said, I feel good. I'm good. And I got up, got out of bed, got dressed, and went for a drive. It was like 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning. And that experience has taken a long time for me to reflect back on it and realize all the implications of it, and some I still don't fully get yet, and maybe I don't need to. But it strongly changed my life because I recognized it was real. No matter if anyone believed me or if anyone said, yeah, it was just a dream, didn't matter. I knew what it was, and I knew it wasn't a dream. And I knew I had asked for help in a bad state, and I was given help in a very significant way. And that, I think that is really my main impetus for wanting to tell you about it, because I wasn't dead, and yet those beings were there with me. They came to me and helped me where I was. So the relationship that I had been in, I then ended, and 2 months after that relationship, I began another one with a woman that came to me who was angelic, and she was came from a psychic family from, we have a town up here called Lilydale, that's in lower New York, western New York state, where a lot of psychics are. And this person brought me a lot of tools, and she brought me Seth, who then changed my life. I don't know if you've read the Seth books.
Seth books? Yeah, Seth
Yeah.
books, I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first one. Well, it's the first one to me. She brought me that, and that reading Seth is all this stuff that your thoughts create your reality, and all of the lessons about what this life is, and that all time is now, and that then snowballed for me, and I began to reflect. I see what things I've accomplished in my life. I see how I did them, because I just, the things that I didn't accomplish was because I had doubt and fear. And the things that I accomplished were because I just didn't question it. I knew I would succeed. Like, I started a business. I don't have any high school diploma or anything like that, but I started a business. I just knew I could do it. I didn't doubt myself. And because I didn't doubt myself, that to me now is the biggest reason that I succeeded. Not because I was good or wasn't good or anything. It was, I just knew I could do it. And understanding those principles have guided me a lot in my life. And I never could help from feeling that came from my guides, or whoever came to help me didn't then just leave me. They also steered my path, or helped me to steer it, to continue to get better and to grow. That's the way I see it now. Only in recent months I started watching a lot of NDEs. I stumbled on Bill Letson. I love Bill Letson. I've watched every time he's given one. But there's a few that I really love. David Williamson, I think, and Jeff Cleckley. Yeah. I don't know if you know those two. And I love it when it's not just that their stories of their experiences line up with my beliefs. It's that they have this understanding of this big picture. They got a big download. I love it when people get a huge download, and that they could reiterate it in a way that suggests. And sometimes it's scary. Some of those things are scary. When I talk about these things with friends, a lot of people don't want to accept this idea that there's no evil. That's not a good versus evil. This is us experimenting with our creativity in this creaturehood. And that's tough for us to get our heads around. But I really have come to fully believe that is everything that this is. And it can be frightening because it can mean if then we don't really have any rules. We do get to go to the place of all love no matter what. Not having punishment is tough. But I don't like the idea that there's punishment. Not that I want to do bad, but I think what this is it's us playing out these experiences. But my personal experience with being healed or helped didn't necessarily give me that. What it gave me was, once I moved along a little bit, I felt certain. I know that is there for us, and that someone's watching us. I had an experience where a friend of mine asked me to, his sister had passed, and he asked me to go to this house party where he had hired these psychic women, these two women. And these women, they had these gifts, but they saw their gifts through a very Catholic lens. So they did a prayer to Saint Michael, and we did these chants, and then we started. But when we started, they knew things. I had been to a couple psychics before, and it was nothing. But these women knew things. And it was when I was with the gal who had brought me Seth. They knew about her, and they knew how to describe her. They knew my father, and they said, your father is here. I didn't have a good relationship with my father, so I didn't care. But then they said, there's a woman here who says she's the reason you're a musician, and she ended up, it's my mother's mother, and my mother's mother died when she was 12. And my mother's mother told the psychics that she's always with me, that she doesn't leave me. And they told me a number of other things, but it was the things they knew about my father and a few other things that really alarmed me. But still in all, the lessons that they tried to give me, or the counsel that they gave me after taking this in, I didn't heed, and still have made a rocky road of my life at times. But I still can always hold on to knowing that I feel strongly that I know what this is. And I always tell people, I feel like I have the golden keys to the city, like I have this knowledge, but I constantly don't use it. I constantly drift back into creaturehood experience and just the problems or the worries or things like that. But
I feel like that's something we can potentially, well, a lot of us can relate to. It's so much easier to go back to our everyday life and the habits that we have, and sometimes we know the better way, the better things we need to do, and yet we don't use the keys to the golden city. We just carry on, and sometimes I think we don't realize we're not using the keys. We're trying our best just to get by in this life, and we don't even realize that we're holding these keys. It's an interesting thought, isn't it?
It's frustrating that And I try to be easy on myself, but I feel like I know I'm holding those keys. Why must I constantly slip back? There's part of it that I feel like I always call it the George Harrison thing, because I always felt like George Harrison, he he knew it, but he just, maybe later in life he was okay, but for so much of it, he was angry and frustrated, and he'd write songs about why don't you're dumb if you don't meditate, or he did all that stuff instead of realizing, oh no, love is everything, and that's all there is. And if you could actually get to that, that's very hard to do. And are we supposed to? I mean, why are we here in creaturehood if we're supposed to transcend ourselves to full spiritual beings in flesh? Then what's the point of the creaturehood experience?
I totally love this question. Any thoughts around that, Jay? Why, on a gut surface, why do you think that we're even here doing this?
So I really believe that we are here to experience this pain and suffering, and to learn to transcend it. Seth says the point of suffering is to learn to stop suffering, and that you fully transcend this plane when you realize that your thoughts create your reality and you master that. So I fully realize it, but I haven't mastered it.
Yeah, yeah, different things, aren't they?
Different things.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you for sharing your experience. It's so powerful, and I can feel it. You've got a really beautiful energy in your voice, and as you're sharing this, you called it a trance at one point, this trance that you're in, the triangles coming together, I can actually just feel it. And there's an element of, I'm not quite sure if it's joy or if it's gratitude, but there was something that's just sort of radiating underneath all of that, that I was thinking, man, I'm so happy that this happened for you. Now I'm aware, because a lot of people say, I'd love to have a near-death experience. I'd love to die, have the experience and come back. And I'm always like, hang on a minute, there's quite a bit that goes on. So there might be physical trauma, there might be things to work through, there might be others that are lost in the process, things that happen. Your experience, you said to us that you weren't physically dead, and so you had this NDE-like experience, but you were in a place of really finding life quite tough. It was dark, you were depressed, you went to bed, you said you had tears in your eyes as you went to sleep that night, and you're crying out to, I'm not sure if you use the word God or not, but you're crying out to either take me or fix this. So
Yes.
it's not like it came out of just going through the motions of life. You were in a very particular place when this happened. I can't help but wonder, the three triangles that you talked about that were coming together, you said they felt a bit familiar. Is that correct? You said they're familiar?
No, I felt like I was sure they were spiritual beings.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So that was my thing. Did you recognize them on a spiritual level, perhaps? And do you have any idea around who, what these triangles were?
Well, I could only speculate. I do believe that we, a lot of the near-death experience survivors, or I don't know what we call them, but a lot of people who've had NDEs have this thought or this experience where they see, they'll say they see timelines and of their own selves, and not a lot of people describe that in a way where I'm living here as Jay, and you as Kirsty, but in this world where we're connected to our greater selves, and then that greater self is part of everything, God, all that is, whatever. I truly believe that that greater self of ours has other selves, not just other concurrent lives, which are many, but also concurrent lives of our own self. So I think in a large part, probably part of my greater self, maybe that's all it was all of my greater self came to fix me in this creaturehood experience. But I don't know. Like I had the experience with the psychics who said my grandmother was always with me. Maybe it was my grandmother. Maybe it was just helpers. You know, we learn sometimes people in the astral plane, people in their sleep are actually out, their spirits are out helping others. And maybe this is just a job we do for each other. But I did, yes, strong emotion and thought. I was dire enough. I that it set off an alarm somewhere. Someone said, "Help this guy."
I'm really happy they did help. I'm really happy that something happened. I've talked with quite a few people where they have got to the point of, I'm going to say desperation, of just something has to change. And they've had beautiful outer body experiences. One in particular that I'm thinking of right now, his son had died in a car accident. And he was just pleading with, I'm going to say, God, can I just, like, I can't handle this. I can't cope. Just can you change something? And he had an outer body experience where he met with his son and they were able to walk for a little bit. I believe it was in a field. This was quite a long time ago. Walk around and have that time together, almost, I suppose, to get a bit of closure. I don't know what that was. And then it was very evident that he had to say goodbye. And then he came back, but his life was changed forever. And I think we can get to that point of desperation. And yeah, I like how you say someone put out the call for me. I do believe we have helpers. I do believe we have people around us, or spirits, or our spiritual team around us when things get really tough. So I think my follow-up question to that, Jay, would be, you talked about how you had this experience, you woke up and you felt better. I think you even said you got in your car and went for a drive. Did it stay like that for a while, or did that kind of fade, this feeling of like things were better, or was that permanent? Or how does that go for you these days? Does it come and go?
Well, it's a bit like the stock market. I think, I feel it's always gotten better as a whole. I work at it, and I can always go back to certain things. It's always gotten better as a whole. It didn't stay that euphoric. I think sometimes NDE people have that same thing where you go, this was amazing, and now I know everything, and yet I still have to live this life. I still have to go to work. I still have this backache, whatever it is, and it's okay. I feel like it's okay. I feel like I can always do better. You could always do better. But to answer your question as clearly as I can, yeah, it didn't stay that euphoric, but it never went back to being very bad again. I knew I was okay and that everything was going to be great, and I just focused forward after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I really like that. You talked also about how you felt like that was waiting for us, that we can't really fail this life. I hope I'm not paraphrasing too much. Actually, what were your words, Jay? You talked about how, oh, you talked about punishment. You
Yeah.
talked about punishment and about how it's all going to be okay in the end. Is that paraphrasing too much?
No, I, I, I think it's natural for us here to feel like you committed a wrong to me or to that person I love, and you should be punished. And if you aren't punished, there isn't justice. I, I, I see people who have a lot of faith, but then they say, I don't know how God could allow this or that.
Mm.
And I try to see it for what I really believe it is like I say, it it doesn't quite work that way. And my one of my biggest revelations happened when I was very wronged by a guy, and I had so wronged. I had actually, as a younger man in my 20s, I had physically beat on him, and he angered me. I carried this anger, and anytime I saw him, I would go and scare him with my anger. But it just ate at me. And one day, after these things had happened to me, and I had been reading Seth and had this life change, I thought of him, and I thought, I don't feel a bit of anger. I completely forgive him in my heart, like everything. And I said to myself, I want to see him. And 2 weeks later, I was driving and he walked across the street in front of my car. And I pulled over and I went and talked to him, and he was nervous. But I said, hey, I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. And we hugged. And I came to this realization that some of us get and some of us don't. And I'm really grateful that I got it as late as I did, but I got it. That forgiving isn't for them, it's for yourself. And when you forgive, you take that burden off yourself and you replace it with love. And so I think the idea of punishment, I struggle when I hear people use the word karma. It's usually used in a how you did a bad thing and then you were punished for it. I think if anything, if you're focused on negative, that you may attract negative, and that may look like you did a bad thing and then a bad thing happened to you, but it's really not at all what it is. I don't think, and I say universe, but I mean all that is, or, God. I don't think that there's punishment. I really don't believe that, but I think what we're, because look at it like this, how many of the NDEs do we see where people say, I saw them, spirits line up, and some spirit stepped forward and said, I will come and do the wrong. When I'm choosing a life, I choose a life to be a victim, and another spirit who I love, who's in my spirit family, agrees to come here and do a wrong to me so that I can experience that and they can experience that. And that's what it feels like this is.
Yeah,
As hard as that is to digest, that's what it feels like this is.
it is hard to digest. There's a lot in it. And even as you're saying that, because I've heard this a lot, that we're in our soul group, they might be called, or spirit team, or spirit group, spirit family, and we take turns to play different roles, to have the different experiences. I can't help but wonder, we're here to do good, to have good intention and try and make the world better, try and come in and do things with goodness and the right intentions in our heart. But if our role was to make the agreement in our soul group before we came here, to play the villain or to be the one that hurts somebody or to make something happen, how can we have judgment that goodness looks the same for all of us? Does that make sense? Because that would be fulfilling the role that we came here with, to do harm. That would be
Correct.
goodness in that situation. And because I've been asked a lot as well about historical figures, people like Hitler in particular, how could they come and do so much damage and cause so much hurt and pain and death and all of these things? Is there the potential that that was their role, that they were actually fulfilling their life purpose and that was goodness for their life?
Well, I think it's happened time and again throughout this timeline's history. And I think their role, to me, was to show us severe pain and suffering and for us to decide, do we want more of that or do we not want more of that? So in a universe where there's, I believe, many concurrent lifelines and timelines and lives, that us accumulating these experiences of knowing what suffering is and wanting to do better, learning to do better or not, is what this is. And in other timelines, I believe there's a lot less suffering. They have taken the knowledge and made different choices. And this is one where we feed the information of pain and suffering back to the mothership as we are experiencing it. I think we expect a lot of this primitive level of creaturehood that we are now. I believe we're pretty much still very primitive people, tribal people. Just because we have computers doesn't mean we're advanced, but we have the potential to overnight change that.
It's a different kind of advancement, isn't it? Different kind of almost intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah. And probably, I've had this feeling for decades that something didn't seem right, although it's comfortable. We have our home and our car, and we want this, and we have this comfort and that. And increasingly, people want to be alone. They get more and more isolated now than ever. And I think a communal way of living where, sure, maybe more people die and the population is smaller, but we live together and help each other in a different way is maybe the life model that could work best for our spiritual well-being. But here again, I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think if this is what we do and we experience pain and suffering, then that's what this life is. It's a little frightening, unless you just feel like, no, I know when it's over, I'll be somewhere else. I'll be where it's all love, and I'll choose to do it again.
Maybe. I hear a lot of people going, this is the last time I'm coming here. I'm
I don't think
never
it's our
choosing to do this
choice.
again. Okay, so you don't think it's our choice. So how much choice do you think we have? Do we choose to come here? Possibly you think not. If we do, or if we're told we're coming here, how much choice do you think we have around what our life will look like? So thinking of the basics, where we'll live in the world, whether we're male, whether we're female, our family, is that our soul group, spirit group? the way that we live our life. Do you think we have much choice? Can we choose how our life's going to go,
Yeah. Oh,
in your
yeah, I do
opinion?
believe so. Yes, absolutely. My everything from everything I've taken in, I would say we can choose that, but knowing that, so if we want to transcend this and we want to come here and have fully learned to stop the suffering, to learn that everything is love, and to live a life where we navigate it with full control of our thoughts, shaping the experience that we have, then that could probably be executed without living a lot of suffering lives, or with living many different kinds of lives. But I think we have to learn love is all there is, and our thoughts control it. Then we can graduate. I mean, from a lot of the NDEs and the Seth stuff and everything, I see it as there are other physical realities that we're with physical bodies that we're maybe not able to comprehend, but they exist concurrently as well, and we can experience those. And finally, you can experience just then being a teacher and guide and stay there. But I think there's a lot of pain and suffering here before we get that diploma.
Quite possibly. I love to think that there's unlimited potential of what's out there, what's happening at the same time. And this is a topic that we've gone into quite a lot throughout these conversations in the podcast around past lives, parallel lives, future lives, everything happening all together, reincarnation. I
Yeah,
love to think about where the spirit is, because if we are not our physical flesh and blood, if we are a spirit body and then we reincarnate into another being, who are we? So we start to get into all of these really big topics. The topic of death and dying, and actually life and living, is just so, so enormous. I'm actually blown away every time we get into some of the meaty stuff, which is what I feel like we're doing today. It's really, really interesting to me. I'm curious to know, Jay, before your experience, how long ago was your experience?
2004.
Okay, okay. So
So
yeah, it's taken a while to get it out, which is not uncommon at all.
yeah, it has
Yeah.
stayed with me daily. It was just in the last months watching more videos, because I'd read some books, Proof of Heaven, and I have a few of those books. But to me at the time, like many people say, it was just a few books, a few people's experiences,
Yeah.
and then with the internet, and I don't remember why, because I do other stuff in spiritual searching online, so it fed me Bill Letson one day, and I said, "What's that?"
Mm.
And then that just opened the can of worms. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I think I got off track though.
No, no, that's okay. I think I did as well, because what I was going to ask you was, before this happened, what did you have spiritual beliefs? Did you have a theory around life and death? And maybe, I don't know, did you have any set ideas?
No, I think I was a little floaty. If you had asked me 25 years ago, I might have said I'm some form of Christian. I would have said, I believe that Christ existed and that he was a teacher and good, but that man perverted that for power, and that's what I would have told you. I didn't have a strong belief, but that night I definitely used the word God. But I don't think it matters when you're asking for help. We hear people say it. You just have to ask. Those guides are there, and they will help if asked.
Mm,
But we have to ask.
mm,
So yeah, I didn't have a strong form, and then all of this came through through the experience, then I began that journey of understanding. And then I was able to meditate. I had never been able to meditate. And I just learned myself in my own way, and have had some very strong meditations where I could get white light, and I could feel the glow and get up in there. Sometimes, for only 10 seconds or so once I'd get up there, but it would feel so good when you came out of it. I never have mastered that. You get up there, and then I have a conscious thought that usually says, "Oh my God, I'm up, I'm in," and then you fall
Breaks it
out.
all.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the story of my life. But
Oh,
that's good. And so all that changed for me, and the quest became different. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I really do love the way that this has impacted you and the way it's caused you to search more, ask questions, and yet at the same time feel like you had a bit more of the answer and yeah, have your spiritual team around you. Is that something that you try and tap into regularly? Like, do you try and communicate with people who call them spirit guides, might be past loved ones, it could be anyone really. Is it like, do you try and include them in your daily life?
No, although I do sometimes think about my grandmother, but I think I've grown the sense that you do here in some of the NDEs, this idea of not finding. I mean, I could say that while I'm experiencing this creaturehood as me, I'm very attached to it, and I love things and tangible things of the earth. I love this experience, but I don't know that I find it to be so precious, in that death, I hate to keep going back to it, but it had such a powerful, effect on my life. It's my Instagram handle is "A Death Is Like a Night," because Seth says, a death, you think this living and dying is this big to do and this whole thing, but when you're here, you will realize that it's like a night. It's like a day and a night. A death is like a night. You're living and dying all the time. And so you, I guess even, I lost my mother last April. She was 94. And the sadness, and even losing my cat that I love dearly, my sadness was all while they were still here. The moment they're gone, then they're not suffering, and I know everything's beautiful. I'm sad for the suffering, and then I'm sad that I miss them for myself, but they are gone in very many ways that very many religions would say. I just think it's a bigger, more open, more beautiful, less regimented thing than all that.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I often think about how death might actually be a birth. How I don't believe it's the end. I believe it's a transition into something else. We don't know the answers. We don't have specifics. It kind of helps me to deal with death when it happens. I have a lot of that sort of things happening in my life, not my own personal people, but in the nature of my work and the conversations that I have, death is quite a primary thing for me. How do you feel about your death, Jay? Like when that eventually happens, whatever that looks like, how do you feel about death for you personally?
I I'm not afraid of it. I'm not afraid to go. I don't. I think if anything, I always said I'm not gonna suffer. So if I'm suffering, or if I see it that I'm going to suffer, then I'll end it for myself, because I don't see the point in that. My cat began to suffer, and so we have a way do that.
Yeah,
And the
yeah, we
vet
treat
comes,
animals very differently, don't we?
yeah. And so experiencing it with my mother, where my sister and I were her own hospice, and in the end, it's basically that with morphine. So I would want that for myself, but my own death, I'm ready now, but I'm ready to keep enjoying life.
Mm,
It's I'm not afraid of it.
mm.
Fully, completely, honestly, not afraid of it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that that is quite a common theme with people who've had these beautiful, spiritually transformative experiences that covers so many different things. So it might be a particular dream, it might be something like you've talked about, it might be a near-death experience, a Kundalini experience, outer body. There are just so many. We've got all these little acronyms of all of the types of experiences. They all are so unique and so beautiful in their own way. And from what I've seen, it really does come down to so much of this physical experience that we're having here is all about love. It's about showing up and doing our best with our right intention, being the best version of who we are, we can be. All comes back to love, and that death is not the end, that we are eternal in some form, so beyond this lifetime. And none of us quite know what that looks like, but yeah, I really agree with you. I really love everything you've said here today. Jay Green, thank you so much for your experience. It's quite a deep one. I can see that it's opened up a lot of questioning, a lot of thought. You've opened up a lot for me, if nothing else. Yeah, and I'm sure our listeners will appreciate that. So, Jay, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.